Don't look too closely at my waves because you might get seasick. Ha! Ooh, child, the girls ain't about to get no kind of dick for real for the next 4 years. Did y'all see the way Elon's old musty ass did that salute yesterday? Child. Given yesterday's events, I felt like today's topic was timely. So without further ado, the pros and cons of abstaining. Okay, no, but can we talk about this one, y'all?
Oh, can we talk? Can we talk about it? 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 Can we talk? Can we talk about it?
Hey y'all, it's your girl Cindy Noir, and welcome back to another episode of my show, The Cindy Noir Show. I'm so excited for today's topic because abstinence / celibacy, whatever you want to call it, is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I began my abstinence journey in my early 20s and it has changed my life for the better. And it's really important to me to get this message out for any other women who may be considering doing the same thing in their personal lives. I am also in the process of writing a book about my abstinence journey and my viewpoint on abstinence and celibacy altogether. So stay tuned for that. And the reason why I wanted to make this podcast episode after yesterday's events, yesterday was January 20th. I refuse to acknowledge what the event was, nonetheless. But the reason why I wanted to make this episode after yesterday's events is because we all know that Rumpelstiltskin's administration is coming straight for reproductive rights and reproductive health. So for the next 4 years, women will experience even more of our reproductive rights being taken away from us. And it's going to get real spooky real fast. And as a matter of fact, it's already gotten spooky. It's just going to get spookier. And so with him now officially being in office, I'm sure a lot of women are having to really sit with and think about their future for the next 4 years. Do they want to risk having kids right now where abortion is illegal, and if anything goes left in the pregnancy, their lives are at risk? I'm sure women are also having to ask themselves, do I want to attach myself to a man through the product of a child for long term, given our current social climate? That's also a really important question because, honey, the red pill is going to red pill the way it hasn't red pilled before. And that's important for women to ask themselves too. With all these questions that I'm sure women are asking themselves, I felt like it would be important for me, given my experience, to make a video on the pros and cons of abstinence, because abstinence is a growing choice women are taking given what's happening in our society right now. And I'm sure there are going to be a growing amount of women who are intrigued at the concept of abstinence now that the orange man is president again. I wanted to make this episode for any women who are curious, and really anybody who is curious about abstinence and the reality of it, because, honey, trust me, over here, I'm going to give you the pros and cons of abstinence, okay? But before I get into the nitty-gritty, I want to make it very clear. Over here in my corner of the internet, when I talk about abstinence and celibacy, I'm not talking about these concepts from the standpoint, from a lens of religion or purity culture. No, babes. We are not putting our coochie on ice over here to preserve ourselves for a man one day, or because that's more godly of us to do. No. That's not what's happening over here. I'm very pro-sex. I'm very pro-ho. I'm very pro-women doing what they want for their bodies. And part of doing what you want for your body is also choosing to put a coochie on the shelf. You know, that's your choice as well. This is a very pro-choice angle of abstinence and celibacy. And as a matter of fact, to prove my point, I know that I've worn this sweatshirt in a previous episode, but I had to wear it again for this episode in particular because of the emblem. I don't know if you all have noticed, but on my shirt, it has the initials AWO and then the pause sign. And what it stands for is a whore on pause. Yes, I did say that. And I coined this cheeky term to create a safe space for those of us women like me who were sexually active or who even enjoyed sex, but decided to become abstinent for personal reasons that had nothing to do with religion or purity culture. So I'm saying all this to say that over here, when it comes to abstinence, there is no judgment for your why. There is no judgment for who you were prior to your abstinence journey. Come as you are, because you'll be safe and good to go over here. And one last thing before I start the pros and cons list, okay? I will be using the terms celibacy and abstinence interchangeably, okay, people? It is 2025. I get it, words have meanings. However, words also evolve in their meaning. When is the last time that you met someone who claimed to be celibate in the ancient definition of celibacy, which is no sex, no masturbation, no relationships, no marriage? When's the last time that you've heard someone claim to be celibate and they meant it in the archaic definition? Right. No. Most of the time nowadays, when anyone claims to be celibate, they really mean abstinence too. It's all being lumped into the same thing. And honestly, what's wrong with that? When someone tells you that they're either abstaining or celibate, all you need to know as a listener is they're not fucking in some capacity. That's it. I don't understand why we get so hung up on if someone says celibate. Well, did you mean abstinent? Bitch, I'm not fucking. That's the main takeaway. That's the whole point. I'm not fucking. Why do I have to use abstinence or celibacy when the reality is, when's the last time you met a nun? When's the last time you've met anybody who is shutting down their shop solely out of religion and purity culture? Yeah, times are changing and it's time to evolve with the times. Anyway, it just really irks me when people get hung up on the definition when it's been forever since someone has meant celibate in the way that it was intended to be meant for back in the day. Let's evolve with the words and the meanings, please. Thank you. Now, let's get into the pros of celibacy. Now, to list my criteria on why I feel that I can speak on this topic, I began my abstinence journey at 22, and I talk about this experience a lot more in depth in my book. But my abstinence journey was born out of my hoe phase. Your girl was hoeing a little bit too much, and it got a little scary for me. So in an effort to save myself from getting pregnant by somebody I didn't want to get pregnant by or catching an incurable STI, I took my coochie up out the streets and embarked on an abstinence journey that lasted about four and a half years straight. I have spent the majority of my 20s abstinent off and on. I will be abstinent for a long stint of time, as in a year minimum. And then I'll find a little somebody to bounce on this shit and dance. And then I go back to abstaining. So that's been my cycle for the majority of my 20s. I have ample experience in the reality of abstinence, the good and bad and but ugly. I have all the experience of that. So that's why I feel as though I can give a pretty good and honest answer as to what the pros and cons are for abstinence. So now that you have all the backstory that you need, let's get into the pros list first. The first and most obvious pro to not fucking is not having to worry about catching any STIs, catching the pregnant, or catching feelings. Love that. While I too at one point enjoyed the thrill of waiting for my cycle to come on, as someone who's abstained for the majority of my 20s, I'm here to tell you. That thrill of waiting for your cycle to come on becomes less thrilling when the person who's the reason why it might not come on is someone you do not want to be attached to like that, okay? Let me tell you something. As somebody who's abstained long term, do not underestimate the guaranteed peace of knowing your cycle coming every single month, okay? Knowing, not having a shadow of a doubt that you're not pregnant, baby, that feeling of certainty, chef's kiss, it's up there. As someone who had a couple of pregnancy scares myself back in my heyday, the only thing that makes a pregnancy scare funny is not being pregnant at the end of it, okay? That is something that I do not miss. Also, risking STIs, don't miss that. Yes, y'all should go get tested together. Yes, y'all should be sharing each other's statuses and such. But even in your precaution, there is still a risk in catching STIs. And honey, that risk is scary, especially when you think about the fact that a lot of STIs can lie dormant in your body for years, wreaking havoc on your uterus, and you have no idea. Too risky. Not having to worry about being cheated on and that affecting your pH balance is up there. It is up there, okay? Not having to worry about the person you're giving your body to maintaining their bodily health so your body stays healthy too. Not worrying about that is tops. It is truly tops. Not only that, not having to worry about catching feelings because we done hooked up a little bit too soon and it was a little too good and now my judgment's clouded. Ah, hey, I do not miss that. One thing abstaining has taught me ad nauseum is just how much sex can cloud your judgment, babes. Half the time, you don't even like them. You like their tallywhank, okay? You don't even like them as a person. You haven't even taken out enough time to assess who they are as a person and where their values lie. All you know is dick is too bomb, and that's all you care about. And I know I have lost myself many a time in my past chasing after the peen and not the person. That was a word. But when you not fucking, you not chasing no peenery or you ain't chasing no coochie. So you're able to focus on who they are first. And that leads to my next pro, which is that abstinence weeds out ill-intentioned people so easily. It weeds out the dead weight easily. And that's whether you disclose you're abstaining or not. Personally, I don't disclose. I have in the past, and it kind of makes things worse. In my experience, whenever I've disclosed to somebody new that I was abstaining, it either sent them running to the hills, which cool, or I became a project for them. I became someone where all they were focused on was not getting to know me as a person and not trying to develop a connection, but trying to be the person I break my abstinence for, which resulted in love bombing and then performing to be somebody they thought that I would want until they got tired and wasted all of our time in the process. So I learned to not disclose my abstinence status and just wait for sex and just put it off till I was comfortable and ready for it. And even in doing that, you still weed out the impatient. You still weed out those who are only there for your body and that's it. You weed out those who are ill-intentioned and not focused. Depending on what you're looking for, it makes it a lot easier for you to find what you're looking for when you are abstaining. And this pro feeds into the last pro, which is that abstinence gives you a third eye into the way of the world that you otherwise don't have. Before I abstained as a woman, I knew that a lot of men wanted my body, but I genuinely felt like if I take my coochie off the table, sure, some men won't be for it. Sure, it'll deter some men, but a lot of these guys still want to get to know us for who we are as people. A lot of these guys still value me as a person too. It won't be that bad. I was in for a rude awakening. I was very naive and innocent in the thought that the majority of men weren't that shallow. Babes, abstaining gave me a third eye in which I was able to painfully come to the realization that the majority of men only see me as a whole or a couple of holes, and that's pretty much it. And while the process of realizing that wasn't the most comfortable, and I'll get into that on the cons list, it was needed, and it did give me a knowing that I didn't have prior to it, an understanding of who I'm dealing with now. Abstinence gave me a third eye view into the meaning behind a lot of why men do what they do to woo women. It's to get in our pants. It's not because they actually like who we are as people and want to make us happy and want to make us feel good. That might be the case for a few men, but the majority of men are merely performing and being the kind of men they think that you want to get in your pants. And that's really it. That's the full extent for it for them. And there was nothing quite like taking my coochie off the table to make that clear as day. This third eye also made it easier for me to walk away from the men who didn't value me beyond my coochie, because why would I give you my coochie when all you see me for is my coochie? Now, that was cool during my whole phase when that's all I saw you for was peen, but I got to a point in my life where only being seen as a masturbation apparatus just didn't eat to me anymore. I got to a point where I got tired of only being seen for my coochie and wanted to be seen for my bomb-ass personality and my quirks too. And abstinence gave me a third eye into realizing how many men not only didn't want to get to know you on that level, but how many men haven't even gotten to know themselves on that level either? It became scary to me after I began abstaining, realizing just how many men don't care to get to know themselves deeply either. The third eye that I got from abstaining showed me just how many men out here are sexually undisciplined and are moving in ways that can be categorized as self-harm sexually. Very reckless, no protection, not checking to see STI statuses, sleeping with multiple women at the same time, and being reckless about it. That's self-harm. Not only are you endangering the women you're sleeping with, but you're also endangering your own health. And abstinence gave me a chance to really sit back and assess men's behavior with sex. And it's scary. It became scary to me how many men don't barely even want to know your first name and are okay with getting in bed with you. Like, don't know anything about you. And yet, and still would totally 100% get in the bedroom with you. Ew, that's scary. And abstinence gave me a third eye view into that. And it made me very cautious. I don't want to be in the bed with no man who, after asking your name and what side of town you stay on, is ready to hook up with you. That's scary. You lacking that much care for your own body means you will treat my body any kind of way. I don't like it. I don't like that. Abstinence gave me a third eye view into a lot of the workings of men and how scary and negligent men can be with themselves when it comes to sex. Another pro for abstinence is that it gives you the space for you to explore you, okay? While yes, I am talking about masturbation, I also mean that in exploring you in your totality. When I began to abstain, I really started because I was able to recognize that who I claimed that I wanted to date wasn't who I was actually dating. Like, the quality was much less than what I claimed I wanted to date. And I didn't understand why I was choosing so poorly. And so in an effort to better understand my why, I abstained. By me abstaining, what I essentially did was I told myself the way that I'm currently functioning is very dysfunctional. The way that I'm currently dating and choosing who I want to date is very dysfunctional. And I don't want to continue down this path of dysfunction. So we're going to pause the coochie for right now. And we're going to halt me making any more decisions in this arena of my life to avoid any further dysfunction. And in the meantime, I'm gonna sit my ass down and get a therapist and do some journaling to figure out where that dysfunction is coming from and how to absolve it. During my abstinence, not only was I flicking my bean like there was no tomorrow, but I was also getting to know me and figuring out, okay, why do I keep dating bums? Like, why do I keep choosing people who are just so subpar or who aren't where I am mentally, emotionally, all of those things? Why do I keep ending up with them? And it gave me a chance to sit down and focus solely on me. When you decide to embark on an abstinence journey, you are committing yourself to you. And you are committing your attention and your focus to you. And that is a very sacred time. That time is very special. And I think that women are so conditioned to focus on everyone else and worry about appeasing and appealing to everyone else, even in sex, that we forget that our experience matters too. Abstinence was a way for me to reclaim my time, reclaim my body, and reclaim my focus to focus on getting me together. But you should also be using your abstinence journey to flick that bean and to get to know what you like sexually too, as you should. Women, we are taught that sex is done to us and it is not a mutual experience. And we're also taught that sex is really about the male pleasure and not yours. So if you're going to abstain, bitch, spend that time focusing on your pleasure. That way, when it's time for you to end your abstinence journey, you are better able to depict and describe what your needs for pleasure are. It saddens me how many women don't understand their own pleasure because they have not had time to sit and get to know it. And because we haven't been conditioned to prioritize our pleasure for ourselves. So abstinence over here, yeah, flick that bean, diddle that skittle. Do what you got to do to figure out what it is you like. This is the time to explore your pleasure. Do you like toys? I learned in my abstinence journey that I'm not the biggest fan of toys. Toys get you there a little too fast for me, okay? I like to enjoy the scenery. And toys are a literal bullet to your destination. Too fast for me. But I learned that through abstaining and focusing on my wants and my needs for once. So I like abstinence because it takes the woman out of the role we're conditioned to being in, which is serving everyone else and considering ourselves last. Abstinence makes you consider yourself first in ways we aren't conditioned to do. Which brings me to my next pro, which is that celibacy protects you from a lot of the bullshit that dating brings. I can't tell you how many times I have sat and listened to friends of mine crying and frustrated and emotional about the guy that they were dating and seeing, and they slept with him and he switched up. And now he's reaching out less. And now she hasn't heard from him in months. She doesn't understand why. When I was sexually active and in my hoe phase, I was experiencing a lot of the bullshit these streets have to offer. I was experiencing, before y'all sleep together, he is up your ass, calling you, doing all these lavish and extravagant things. And then the moment y'all hook up, all that stops. I've been there. I've been there where you are hoping that sleeping with him will get him to lock you down. I've been there, and I've had those emotions and those experiences. And it sucked. It wasn't a fun part of the experience at all. And so when I began to abstain, I transferred from being an experiencer of those experiences to an observer. And that, definitely a pro. I went from being the girl experiencing switching up and experiencing the hot and cold behavior post-nut clarity brings to listening to my girlfriends talking about it and listening to my girlfriends dating and putting their bodies out there to be rejected or to end up single or to end up cheated on despite giving their body to that man. And I gotta say, to be a bystander and not an experiencer, I ain't mad at it. I am not mad at that one at all. It is nice to be on the outskirts of the bullshit and to know that it's been a minute since a man has played in my face like that. And if he played in my face, my body was never on the table to begin with. My body was off the table. So even if he wasted my time, he didn't waste my coochie. Amen. Every time a man walked away from me early on when he found out that I was abstinent or when he learned that he was going to get coochie out of me that easily, that was a man that was protecting me in a roundabout way from the bullshit he was gonna do. To see that force field working in my favor in real time, oh, that feels amazing. It is definitely a good feeling to see in real time the reality of the protection that abstinence can bring a woman. It feels good to know that even if someone hops on my line and they playing, at least they not playing with my coochie. Ooh, child. Because it is a very painful thing to have to reckon with as a woman. When you as a woman have used your body as a bartering tool in the hopes that by giving this man your body, he will in return give you commitment, give you exclusivity, and give you his time, attention, and focus solely on you. We've all made that barter or that exchange, and we've all experienced coming up empty-handed in that attempt to exchange. And that feeling sucks. It sucks to know you're giving somebody this much access to you and they didn't value it properly and are on to the next, and you're sitting here picking up the pieces of your heart and your body and your coochie after what all's happened. I do not miss that experience whatsoever. So yes, abstinence will save you from a lot of the bullshit dating brings, and it will protect you to where even if you're experiencing some of the bullshit, it's nowhere near as painful as it would be if you were not abstaining. And the last pro that I will give is the mental clarity that abstinence brings. Because of all of the years that I've experienced in abstinence, I have to sit down and assess the person first before I take the route of lust. A lot of us, especially in our society, are conditioned to not assess the person, but to assess the lust instead. And abstinence has gotten me out the habit of that because I refuse to break my abstinence for someone who is not deserving of it as a person. And so when I meet new people romantically, I am forced essentially to really sit down and get to know who they are with a clear level head, because there's no way my coochie gonna work for you if I don't know you and I don't know your values and I don't know your thoughts and opinions on things. So abstinence over time provides you with a very clear mind and a very clear priority rank of understanding. While I might be horny right now, while I might be ovulating, I'm not about to risk sleeping with somebody who isn't worth my coochie. I'm not doing it. Abstinence has brought me a clearer head and priority and understanding that your top priority should not be how attractive they are to you. It should be the contents of their character. And abstaining has definitely got me to shift my mind and my priority list from the physical to the internal a lot more. So now that we've gotten the pros out the way, let's get into these cons, shall we? Most important con on the whole list, bitch, you're not about to be fucking at all, okay? And it will suck. Yes, it will suck at different times, especially during ovulation. Honey, you think you know sexual frustration. You don't. If you have yet to abstain, you don't know sexual frustration at all. You don't know her, but you'll meet her. And what a bitch she is, okay? I have experienced the mountaintops and the valley lows of sexual frustration, okay? Sexual frustration is a bitch. You will have moments where you want to punch a hole in the wall because you're that horny. Yeah. It gets intense and it gets frustrating. And not fucking is, as a human, unless you're asexual, a lot of us, that's an innate, that is a need, okay? And to deny that need, to go against your primitive, nature, yeah, you're going to have some rough times and really holding on and staying strong through that, because abstinent, yeah, you ain't gonna be fucking. And to go from fucking, especially if you're doing it a lot, to not at all, it's an adjustment. And that adjustment can last you a long time. Throughout my abstinence journey, throughout the 4.5 year stint that I did, I don't think sexual frustration ever got easier. I just got more used to it. But even 4 years into it, there were definitely months on my ovulation where I was fiending. Okay? Fiending. Needed it. And didn't get it. And so, yeah, I don't want to underestimate or undervalue the sexual frustration aspect of it. It will be intense and it will suck. I've cried about it sometimes. Yeah. Because sometimes you don't want yourself to pleasure yourself. Sometimes you want someone else to do it for you. Amen. In the words of Carrie Bradshaw, sometimes you want to feel the weight of somebody on you, And when you're going a long stint of not having that, you're going to have some frustrating emotions around not getting it. So make space for the very real reality that you're going to be very sexually frustrated, especially if you have a high libido. If you got a high libido and you're wanting to become abstinent, buckle up, babes. It's about to be a ride. I'm just being real. The next con has to do with the third eye that abstinence brings that I brought up earlier in the episode. That third eye is going to get on your nerves sometimes. Yeah, that third eye is going to make you miss the days when you were ignorant, when you didn't know as much, when you didn't see as much, when you weren't privy to as much as you're privy to now. Abstinence forces you to become aware to a lot of the grim aspects of society. And once you're aware of it, you can't go back to being unaware. There is no going back to being ignorant to the fact that the majority of men don't want you, they want your body. You can't unsee that, okay? You can't unknow that. Once you begin to abstain, once you tell yourself, I'm not going to give my body to somebody until there's a connection, you will have days where you regret that, because you will come across someone who is fine. And I mean fine. And they only want you for your body. And quite frankly, you might only want them for their body. And if y'all got in them sheets, you'd have a good old rump in the hay. But that's not what you committed to. You didn't join this journey to just find someone to fuck on and that's it. You said that you were looking for a deeper connection. At least that's what I said. I told myself I didn't want to break my abstinence journey until I was able to develop an emotional connection with someone so that sex had substance and meaning and wasn't just a shallow act between two bodies. That is what my commitment was in my abstinence journey. And it became really frustrating when I'd come across somebody who I thought was fine as hell and just knew with every fiber, I could feel it in my bones, that if we hooked up, it'd be a great time. And I still had to say no. Ooh, that's going to happen. And it's going to happen a lot, babes. It's going to happen a lot. Because that third eye that you get in abstinence, you can't unsee it. And not only can you not unsee it, but you can't unfeel it. And there have been plenty of times in my abstinence journeys where I've met someone and they did it for me lustfully and physically, not as a person. Our values did not align. I didn't like them as a person, but I liked how they looked and did my best to push past that third eye. Did my best to ignore my gut feeling, did my best to ignore my commitment to myself, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I ended up having to tell that fine motherfucker, no, I can't do this with you no more. You know, like, and that's happened a lot. It happens. It does. Please do not think that just because you are now abstinent, you'll never be tempted. And that leads me to my next con, bitch. You are going to be tempted and you're going to have to say no and miss out on a lot of shit, babes. You are. You are. Especially if you're attractive. Yeah, you're going to experience saying no at an exponentially higher rate than you might have in the past. When you decide to put a coochie up on the shelf, put it on ice, let it chill out for a little bit, you are committing to a life of saying no and walking away more than you will ever say yes and stay. I'm here to tell you, okay? Abstinence, you gonna say no. Ooh, Jesus. Honey, the amount of people I've had to say no to because we weren't aligned, it's a lot. This might be one of the most frustrating aspects of abstinence because you're already not getting any. And you are already focused on trying to have a connection with somebody, which is rare. And you finally come across someone that you find attractive. Y'all have pretty good conversation, you know, so you're thinking, okay, bitch, we get somewhere. Then they have a non-negotiable, or they have something about them that you know isn't going to work for you. And you know you got to say no. And it's like, God damn it. This is the closest I've gotten to getting some dick in months. A year plus. And I got to tell this person no? You mean to tell me I got to tell them no? Even though I really don't want to say no. It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. As frustrating as it is, though, I will say that there was once a point in my abstinence journey where I didn't say no. Because I was so tired of saying no. And I had been saying no for years at that point with no let up. Wasn't able to say yes yet. I was tired of saying no. Finally said yes to somebody and I regretted it. I'll talk about it in my book. But just know that, like, as frustrating as saying no is all of those times, you want for your yes to be a resounding hell yes. And giving anything less than that resounding hell yes is not going to make it worth it. I'm telling you, it's not. So as frustrating as saying no a lot was, trust that you're saying no for a reason and it's not just being said to be said. Now, these last two cons are a little bit more deep mentally and emotionally, so I'm just giving you a little heads up for that. The last few cons have been pretty shallow and about sexual frustration, but these next couple of ones are the ones that I'm currently experiencing. And yeah, you need to know about these last two. So the first con is, depending on your why, abstinence does not have an end date and it can be indefinite. And that's the hard one for me. When I initially became abstinent, I told myself that I wanted to abstain for 1 year. No matter if I found somebody or not, I wanted to be abstinent for 1 year. And then after I hit that year mark, I would move forward however I saw fit. I genuinely thought that in the first year of my abstinence, I would find this magical person to have this connection with and build on things towards and all that great stuff in 1 year. Thought I'd be able to accomplish it in 1 year. I did not. I didn't. And when I hit that 1 year mark and was still as single as I was on my day one, that's when I realized, oh shit, not only do I have some work to do to even get to that goal, but I can't really put a timeline on this journey because I don't know when it'll actually end. I can say I want to give it 6 months or a year, but who will I be at the end of that time frame? What if I get to the end of that time frame and I'm nowhere near ready, or I haven't gotten that person or haven't found that person yet? Then what? So one thing I had to learn is if you're going to commit to abstinence, don't put a time on it because you don't know how long you will be. I would say you need to commit to at least a year. A year will give you a good time frame to really get to know yourself and and explore your life abstinent. However, in my experience, putting a time frame on it didn't fare well. But I also feel like when you put a time limit or a time frame on your abstinence journey, you run the risk of trying to find anybody to fill that position in your life. When I began my journey at 22, if you would have told me at 28 I would still be abstaining, I wouldn't believe you. I would not believe you. I would just knew that a good year, 2 years max of me abstaining, I would find my one and only and be married by now. That wasn't how my life panned out at all. And so I want to make you all aware, if you are wanting to commit to abstinence, keep in mind you don't know how long the journey will actually last. You might get in that bitch and like it a little bit too much and not want to leave. You never know what's going to happen. So just keep your mindset open to things going off script for you. And the last con that I have for your abstinence journey is, I wrote down here, abstinence can go from being a safe haven to a prison if you're not careful. And I use those words very intentionally because where I am right now in my abstinence journey, I feel stuck. I feel stuck here in the sense of I am so comfortable and used to not having to worry about catching an STI or getting pregnant or worrying about being cheated on or my pH balance, that intimacy, all I see now are those cons. I don't see the pros in intimacy with somebody as much anymore. Sure, I see when I'm ovulating, but that feeling is fleeting and it's really just about lust. I don't really understand, and I no longer see the benefit in allowing people, especially men, access to my body. I don't see it anymore. And it creates a prison because no longer seeing the pros in giving people my body means that I don't have a strong desire to date. I don't have a strong desire to put myself out there and risk my body the way we do sexually. I don't desire that. So then I end up burrowing further into my abstinence because of it. Going a long stint of not worrying about the consequences that come from sex means that the longer I go without worrying or without dealing with it, the more when I think about re-entering society in that way, all I think about are the risks. I'm terrified to put myself back out there and to be intimate with somebody because, bitch, you could not like me. I can be giving you this access to my body and you don't like me. Or I'm one of many to you. Or you're cheating on me. Or you've been pretending to be somebody that you think that I'd want this entire time. That's not who you actually are. There are so many more ways for things to not work out than for it to work out. And it makes me terrified to risk trying, because when you are abstinent for a long period of time, that time becomes valuable in the sense of you don't want to throw away 2 years of abstinence on someone who doesn't like you as a person. You don't want us to waste 5 years of not getting any on someone who sees you as a booty call, depending on what your reasoning for abstinence was to begin with. And so it becomes the situation where what started off as a shield, a protection from you, becomes a prison to where you feel kind of locked and trapped into it and you don't want to leave it. Even in the moments where you do want to leave it, you're also questioning like, well, should I? Because I'm listening to y'all talking about these streets. I'm watching y'all in these streets and it looks terrifying. I'm good over here, actually. So the peace and tranquility that comes with abstinence can become something you cling on to after a while. And I think it can also become a little unhealthy. While I do think that abstinence is needed and necessary for women to have as a tool in their belt, I think it is also just as important for women to get back out there and to get back on the saddle. I don't think we're supposed to just stay in this season indefinitely. I think the goal of abstinence, especially if you're taking a break because you don't like your choice in people or you are terrified of choosing the wrong person or the consequences that come with sex, things like that. I think that the goal is to have that time to yourself, to go to therapy, to tend to yourself, take care of yourself, and then re-emerge smarter and wiser and moving more accordingly to you and your wants. But the longer you stay abstinent, I do think you run the risk of beginning to fear a part of the human experience that is very natural and common. In that regard, don't be like me. Don't, out of fear of the risk, burrow yourself into the safety of abstinence, because it starts to feel constricting over time and less safe the more you burrow yourself into it. And I haven't quite figured out that part of abstinence yet. I'm still working through it, but I do know that ending your abstaining journey can be very difficult depending on your why. And the frustration in trying to end it can also result in you throwing your hands up and saying, you know what, forget it. I don't care anymore. I'm going to just focus on me and not worry about trying to end it. It can be tricky. So I just need for you all to know and understand that the longer you abstain, the harder it's going to be for you to want to leave this safe haven that is abstinence. Get in there, handle your business, self-discover, do the work, and then get back out there. We need to connect to people. We need human connection. And I do think that I have abstained to a fault, to where I now fear a very natural part of the human experience. And I don't think that's good. Now, I do think that my fears are valid in some aspects, but I do think other fears are just ruminations of having been by myself in this way for so long. And I do discuss this part more in my book as well. So if there's anything that I could tell someone who is considering abstaining, I think abstinence is a beautiful experience for especially women to embark on. It is such a great chance for you to focus on you and get to know you. And it is a time for you to be unapologetically selfish. Do what you want, when you want, and how you want to do it. And so in those regards, I do think that abstaining is a beautiful journey to embark on, and it's taught me a lot about myself in the process. But I also want to make it clear that, like any journey, celibacy is going to have its pros and cons. I want you to be very wary of the cons so that you're able to approach this situation and this journey in a way that is best for you. My book is on the way. It is projected to be released sometime this year. But in the meantime, as you wait for that, I did create an abstaining journal. For those of you who are either embarking on the journey or wanting to end the journey, I have created a journal that has question prompts for you all to ask yourself and answer in the journal. It is also a very sex positive journal, so it has questions about self-pleasure and what your plans are for that too in the journal as well. And you are able to order that journal now on Amazon. But given our new political climate, I do believe that we're going to see a stark influx of a lot more women becoming whores on pause and realizing that they have the choice and autonomy to opt out. So I just wanted to create this video for those of you all who, in response to what all is changing in our society, want to make this choice, but want to make it and as a well-informed, well-thought-out choice. But now it's your turn to talk about it. I want to know what your thoughts are on abstinence and celibacy. Are you abstaining? Have you done it in the past? If so, how long? And what was your experience like? And I also want for you all to let me know any other topics surrounding abstinence and celibacy you want me to discuss, and I'd be more than happy to do so. But that's all I have for today's episode. Y'all be sure to tune into next week's episode as well. And until then, y'all be blessed and bless up and wrap it up. Okay? Bye, y'all.